In a vast hall illuminated by strange floating crystals that emitted a purple and azure light, stood the imposing figure of Queen Zarin, the sovereign of the alien Bargs race. Her appearance was both terrifying and beautiful, with piercing eyes that reflected distant stars and an aura of absolute power. Before her, seated at the center of a majestic crystal throne, was a completely different being, a mere mortal from Earth, a man named Tomás Sanchez. Tomás had never imagined he would end up in an intergalactic tribunal, much less be at the center of a cosmic trial for impregnating Queen Zarin's 3 daughters. No one had warned him that the procreation laws of the Virgin Galactic Empire were extraordinarily complicated, or that the 3 princesses, Lyra, Astra, and Nova, would be so receptive to his earthly charms. "Unbelievable!" roared Queen Zarin, her voice reverberating through the palace halls. "This human, this insignificant insect, has achieved what no other being ever could. He has impregnated my daughters on the first try." The queen was furious and exhausted. She had been at war with the Santilli Empire for years, an immense empire with far more soldiers than hers, and she was losing. And now, on top of that, a simple human, a mere delivery boy from Earth, had gotten her 3 royal princesses pregnant. What else could go wrong? The court of the Virgin Galactic Empire, the empire ruled by the Barg for hundreds of generations, erupted in murmurs. The strange and varied creatures of the council exchanged bewildered glances. At the back of the room, Centaur, a massive being with floating tentacles, raised a limb and shouted, "How is this possible? Human DNA has never been compatible with Barg royalty. We are witnessing a cosmic anomaly, a new era of Earthling Bargs hybrids." The 3 princesses, each more beautiful and terrifying than the last, knelt before the throne. Lyra, the eldest, with silver skin like her mother and violet eyes, trembled in fear at her mother's reaction. Astra, the middle sister, with night-black hair and sapphire blue eyes, glared at Tomás with a mix of fury and fascination. Nova, the youngest, with golden skin and emerald green eyes, seemed more intrigued than afraid. Tomás, an ordinary man with messy hair and a thoroughly confused expression, cleared his throat before responding. Well, Queen Zarin, I'm just a simple earthling, but I've always had luck with the ladies, you know? And, well, with your daughters, the truth is, we really hit it off in the start." Queen Zarin's eyes blazed with fury. "Hit it off? That's all you have to say? You, a mere Homo sapiens, came to my planet, dared to touch the sacred essence of Barg's royalty, and managed to impregnate all 3 of my daughters. This is sacrilege, an offense to my honor, and worse, my dignity." Tomás, unsure how to respond to such a cosmic accusation, tried to stay calm. "Well, Your Majesty, it's not like I tried to get them pregnant. It was an accident, a little cultural misunderstanding. You could say I was just following orders. They told me to be friendly, especially with the royal family. And, well, things happen fast. But believe me, it wasn't intentional." Queen Zarin clenched her jaw. "Explain exactly how these accidents happen." Tomás swallowed hard and nodded awkwardly. "Well, the first time was with Lyra. I didn't know flowers were such a big deal here. I thought it'd be nice to offer her one as a sign of respect. So I handed her a flower, romantic, right? But turns out, when she inhaled its scent, it triggered something in her physiology. I think I said something like, 'Smells nice, huh?' Next thing I knew, well, she was pregnant." A murmur swept through the hall. Lyra covered her face in embarrassment, while Nova stifled a giggle. "This is unacceptable," some shouted. "Sacrilege," cried others. Tomás didn't understand how giving a simple flower could cause such an uproar, though, admittedly, the most shocking part wasn't the reaction. It was the fact that Lyra had gotten pregnant from it. "And Astra?" Zarin demanded impatiently. Tomás scratched the back of his neck. Well, Astra was a little different. In your culture, dancing is sacred, right? I was invited to a festival, and one of the advisors suggested I dance with her to integrate. So I did, but I didn't know that spinning in sync and touching her hands was basically a marriage proposal. I thought I was just making a fool of myself. Turns out, I activated some kind of biological process. Astra shot him a death glare, while the council murmured in disbelief. "He's a predator," someone shouted from the back. "And Nova?" Zarin asked through clenched teeth. Tomás sighed. "Nova, well, that was even more confusing. I was offered a ceremonial drink to seal our friendship. Some kind of nectar. I didn't know sharing the same cup was such a powerful union symbol in your culture. I was just thirsty, but, well, here we are." Queen Zarin stared at him, dumbfounded. "So, to summarize, you got my daughters pregnant with flour, a dance, and a shared drink, and you say it without a hint of shame?" Tomás raised his hands defensively. "Believe me, Your Majesty, on my planet, those things are completely harmless. No one gets pregnant from stuff like that. If I'd known, I would have been way more careful." A tense silence filled the hall before Nova spoke up. "Mom, what's done is done. No point dwelling on it." Tomás interjected. "Someone please explain what's happening here." Queen Zarin and Tomás then had a conversation where she explained that, on her planet, romantic gestures like those could impregnate a female. Tomás was stunned. "So, giving a flower or sharing a drink always lead to pregnancy here?" "Typically, yes," the Queen replied. "Then you must be getting pregnant all the time." Tomás blurted out, the human delivery guy now an accidental intergalactic stud. Queen Zarin shot him an impatient look. "Of course not. Women here can only conceive 3 times in their lifetime. But those signals, when performed in the right context, trigger conception immediately. It's an act of great significance." Tomás blinked rapidly. "Well, on Earth, those things are just par courtship. Steps before mating. Giving flowers, dancing, sharing drinks, they're common gestures. But they don't guarantee anything. To conceive a child on my planet, it takes a lot more." The Queen raised an eyebrow. "A lot more? Explain." Tomás swallowed, clearly uncomfortable. "Well, my species requires, physical intimacy. Let's just say it's a very direct process. It involves a bodily union." Zarin stared at him, her glowing eyes a mix of shock and disdain. "Bodily union? You mean humans need more than cultural signals and symbolic connections to conceive?" Tomás nodded, trying to keep his composure. "Exactly. And it usually happens after a lot of courting, trust, and, well, passion." A murmur rippled through the room. Nova, unable to hold back laughter, remarked, "Mom, on his planet, reproduction sounds like a theatrical ritual. We're much more efficient." Zarin, however, seemed thoughtful, curious. "Your method seemed primitive, yet perhaps effective in maintaining natural selection. Still, your clumsiness has caused irreparable chaos in our culture." Tomás shrugged, embarrassed. "Believe me, Your Majesty, I never imagined flowers, dancing, or sharing a drink could cause such an uproar. If I'd known, I'd have been way more careful." The Queen studied him for a long moment before sighing. "Earthling, you've altered the destiny of my bloodline and our species. But I can't deny that your explanation of human reproduction is fascinating." Her tone both intrigued and terrified Tomás. "Fascinating." The Queen insisted Tomás explain, in full detail, how human reproduction worked. Visibly uncomfortable, he stammered. "Here? Now? In public? I don't think this is the best place." Zarin, unfamiliar with the concept of modesty, coldly replied, "No, this is a matter of state." Resigned, Tomás took a deep breath and began explaining, awkwardly miming the process with exaggerated hand gestures, simulating movements, and even adding sound effects. The reactions in the room ranged from horrified gasps to stunned silence. Some councilwomen fainted, while others muttered in disgust. "This is barbaric. How primitive." Centaur, the tentacled advisor, exclaimed, "It looks more like combat than procreation." The princesses, meanwhile, were transfixed. Lyra blushed silver, Astra watched with a mix of curiosity and disapproval, and Nova burst out laughing. "All that just to have a kid? Must be exhausting." Tomás, red-faced, muttered, "Well, there are emotions involved, too. On Earth, we call it love or passion. It's a long, complicated process." Zarin, now deeply intrigued, interrupted. Complicated? How can such an inefficient method sustain a civilization? Not sure whether to defend humanity or sink in the floor from embarrassment, Tomás replied, I guess our complications make us value the result more. Every child is special. The room fell silent until an elderly counselor snorted. Special? Pathetic. But the queen, raising a hand, silenced the mockery. Earthling, your method is strange and primitive, but there's something in your words I can't dismiss. Tomás, still flushed, thought maybe, just maybe, he'd survive this cosmic trial. Then the queen dropped the bombshell. Earthling, I want to experience human reproduction. Tomás, who had been taking a sip of water, spat it out. Here? Now? In front of an intergalactic tribunal? Where else? Zarin replied, utterly oblivious to the concept of privacy. This endless war with the Santilli has exhausted me. Their troops are endless. I could use a distraction. Completely overwhelmed, Tomás tried to reason with her. Wouldn't it be better in private? This is kind of intimate. Privacy in matters of state? Absurd, the queen said sternly. Besides, the council must witness it to verify the results. The alien logic, though absurd to Tomás, seemed unquestionable to the Bargs. But under so much pressure, I don't know if I can perform, Tomás admitted. Then you're useless to me, Zarin said coldly. Off to prison for impregnating the royal family. Defeated, Tomás adjusted his wrinkled shirt and muttered, Fine, but no laughing. The room fell into tense silence as Tomás steeled himself. Finally, he looked at the queen and asked, how do we start? Just do what you do on Earth, Zarin ordered. Tomás swallowed hard and began explaining, awkwardly demonstrating with exaggerated gestures while giving clumsy instructions. Okay, first, there's emotional connection, then, physical interaction. The council watched in stunned silence. Some covered their eyes in horror, while others frantically took notes. In the midst of this absurd spectacle, Tomás concluded the act, and then something completely unexpected happened. A bright light emanated from the queen's body. The floating crystals vibrated in unison, and a deep hum filled the room. When everything settled, Zarin, looking both shocked and satisfied, announced, I am pregnant. The silence that followed was shattered by an explosion of cheers and applause. A miracle! A prodigy! The entire court celebrated while Tomás, sweating and utterly bewildered, could only stammer, Wait, what? An elderly counselor explained between laughs. Bargs women can only conceive 3 times in their lives. Or so we thought. This is unprecedented. Earthling, you are a true phenomenon. Tomás, unsure whether to feel flattered or terrified, raised his hands. Honestly, I was just trying to be nice. For the first time, the queen smiled faintly. Earthling, you've changed the fate of our species. This could mark the dawn of a new era. As the ovations continued, Tomás muttered, A new era? That's a bit dramatic, Your Majesty. Queen Zarin rose from her throne, determination flashing in her eyes. I've had an idea. For years, we've been outnumbered by the Santilli Empire. Their troop production is limitless, while our women are biologically restricted. But now, with human males like you, we can overcome that barrier. Tomás's eyes widened. Wait, you want to recruit more human men as intergalactic studs? Exactly, the queen confirmed. An army like never before. Tomás took a step back. You want to turn my buddies into cosmic breeding machines? Then an idea struck him. He chuckled nervously. Well, I do have some friends. Delivery guys like me. Uber Eats, DoorDash. I'm sure they'd be interested. Pay's not great on Earth, and this sounds like an upgrade, if a bit eccentric. Soon after, a group of human men arrived at the Barg's palace, some still in their delivery uniforms. Centaur, the tentacled advisor, murmured, These are the heroes who will change our destiny. Zarin smirked. They're more than heroes. They're our greatest weapon. The new recruits, nervous but excited, quickly grasped the magnitude of their mission, to conceive hybrid soldiers and turn the tide of war. Meanwhile, Tomás watched in a mix of pride and disbelief. Who would have thought food delivery guys would be the key to winning an intergalactic war? And so began an unexpected chapter in the history of the Virgin Galactic Empire.